Hello, you're watching Much Ado About Something today, and I'm Donna. We're in my kitchen. Well, you know, if you've watched my channel, I have an Appalachian background, and so I'm going to show you today the difference in Appalachian biscuits, Cathead biscuits, and pone bread. And so I'll be making both of those and just talking to you a little bit about the background and the reason I make this, and sharing some things from the region of my heritage with you. I thank you for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome, and if you've been around a while, welcome back. I've got the oven on 450 degrees. I've got two cast iron pans here. I've got one that I'm going to put the biscuits in, and I got one over here that I'm going to put the pone bread in. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some bacon fat in these. I want to say it's about 2 tablespoons of fat, roughly. This one's already got a little seasoning in it, but I'm going to add a little bit more. This is bacon grease from bacon that I've saved when I've cooked here in the kitchen. That's something common that was used in the Appalachians, and that's an authentic thing, is to use bacon grease or lard to grease your pans. I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 pans in the 450 degree oven, and they will be heating up while I show you how to mix the biscuits. Now I'm going to start with 4 cups of flour. I've got a stainless steel bowl here. Now back in the Appalachians, it wouldn't have been mixed in a stainless steel bowl. It probably would have been mixed in a bowl like this, or maybe a ceramic bowl or a pottery bowl. But today I'm using a stainless steel bowl. Now back in the day when we measured cups, this is the cups we used. A regular household coffee cup, that would have been a measuring cup. In my flour, I've got this little measuring cup right here. Now I'm going to start out with 4 cups of flour for each one. It's 4 cups of flour to make the biscuits. And this is an all-purpose flour. And to that I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And I'm going to put my baking powder in this little strainer that I've got here, because sometimes the baking powder has lumps in it, and that's something that I do for all my bacon. I make sure I run it through a little screen like this, because I do not want any lumps of baking powder in whatever it is that I bake, because it leaves baking powder, it leaves a terrible taste when it's not mixed in the way it should be. Well, here is 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And you can add as much as 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder per cup. I've just used 1 teaspoon per cup. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and then we're going to add salt. 2 teaspoons of salt. And that there will be our basic dry ingredients for our Appalachian biscuits. Now I'm going to mix all these ingredients up in here. The all-purpose flour, the baking powder, the baking soda, and the salt. I'm just going to take this spoon here and just mix all that up really good, kind of incorporate it and spread it around. And then I'm going to add about a cup of shortening. or lard. We'd use lard in the mountains. You can use whatever you normally use in your biscuits. I know a lot of people like to use butter. But in our neck of the woods, butter was expensive. Lard was readily available because we killed a lot of pigs. We had it on hand. You want to break that lard into your biscuits about the size of peas. And of course, we did this with our hands for the most part. I'm going to go ahead and do it with this spatula. Now you want to be sure to add about a half a cup to a cup. You may need up to a cup of shortening or lard to your 4 cups of flour, depending on how fluffy and what your flour's like. And it's the same way with liquid. I've got 2 cups of milk here. Now originally at my house, growing up in the Appalachians, we would have made our biscuits with water because milk was not readily available to us. I've got 2 cups of milk. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of vinegar in that milk, and it'll make it like buttermilk. We've got our shortening just cut up into our flour to where it looks like about the size of peas, and that's how you want it. So it'll be evenly distributed throughout your flour. Here's a little few chunks that are a little bit bigger. You want to make sure you just break it up till it's kind of even. You can do that with your hands if you want to. Now we're going to go ahead and add the 2 cups of milk that we've added our vinegar to. You can see it's a little chunky, just like buttermilk would be. Buttermilk adds more, or vinegar in this case, since I've soured the milk with vinegar. It adds acid to your recipe, and it'll help it to rise better, and it'll give it a little better taste. Anywhere from 1.5 to 2 cups of liquid usually does this. You want it a good soft biscuit texture. You don't want it real dry. This is pretty dry. I'm just going to go ahead and add that 2 cups of liquid. Now, I don't use a biscuit cutter to cut out my biscuits. You might do that. A lot of people do. I'm going to go ahead and set out this frying pan that's got the grease in it. It's been heating up. Good and hot. And we do this with our frying pan to put a good crisp bottom on the biscuits. Now we do it with the pone bread too. If it's a pone of cornbread or a big biscuit, that you don't divide into little ones. That's the difference in the biscuits and pone bread. The pone bread would not be divided into little sections and make biscuits into your pan. It would just be put into the pan just like this, one big whole section. But we're not going to do pone bread right now. We're just going to go ahead and break off our biscuits. I'm going to add a little flour to this and over to the side just to help me as I form these biscuits so that they won't be so wet. We'll be laying those right into this hot pan. Now the cat size Cathead biscuits, that's a when they say Cathead's biscuits, that's the size that the biscuit should be when it's done. Now you know bread swells up. When you cook it, it's going to rise and it's going to swell up some. So when you pinch off your biscuits or when you roll them out, you want to make them about the size of Cathead. Not a mountain lion, not a bobcat, but a regular old house cat or a barn cat. That would have been the size of your biscuits. And so that would have been about the size of the palm of a full-grown person's hand. That's about the size of a cat head. Now, if you made this thing any bigger, it would no longer be a Cathead biscuit. It would become a pone of bread. And a pone of bread is bigger than a biscuit. It's about the size of 3 biscuits or a whole pan. And I'll show you later how to make a pone of bread. And you just lay your biscuits in your pan. Now, biscuits were made when people had time to form them or roll them out. You know, some people, even in the Appalachians, they'd roll out their biscuits and they would cut them with a can, or they would cut them with a glass. They had a glass that was specific for cutting out biscuits. And those were your more fancier biscuits. Those wasn't usually your everyday biscuits. They could be if somebody was coming, or your Sunday dinner, or any kind of special meal, they would cut the biscuits out. But for the most time, they were busy. They had to feed a lot of people. Mama's family, there was 10. And you had to cook, and it wasn't in their time to be making what they called prissy biscuits. They were making good, hearty biscuits. About the size of a Cathead, a barn cat, or a house cat. You just put them here in your pan, and your hot grease you got going down here in your pan. Let me make sure y'all can see what I'm doing. Scoot the pan over a little bit. And of course we worked in a few biscuits that was not as big for the little kids, for the younger ones. The younger ones didn't always get a big old biscuit. Sometimes they just got a half a biscuit. You want your biscuits touching because that'll help them rise up bigger. Just forming these out in our hand, putting them in the pan. I don't put anything on the biscuits when I'm cooking them, but I do put butter on them when they come out of the oven. And don't worry about so much about how they look. They'll taste delicious. We're more worried about taste than we are how they look. Now here's this pan of Cathead biscuits. We're going to stick them in the oven on 450 degrees. You can see it's a 450 degree oven. It's been heating up. My frying pan was heated up before I put the biscuits in. And we're just going to put this on in here to cook. And we're going to cook them until they're brown. Probably about 15 to 20 minutes. Now we're going to make our pone bread similar to the same way. I've got a frying pan here that's been in that 450-degree oven with 2 tablespoons of lard melted in it. I've got a stainless steel bowl here, which I'm going to add 4 cups of flour to. All-purpose flour. We're going to add the 4 teaspoons or up to 6. You can add a teaspoon per cup of flour of baking powder, or you can add a teaspoon and a half. I don't want to taste the baking powder in it, so I usually just put 1 teaspoon. This time I'll put, I put 1 teaspoon per cup. This time I'll put 1 in, and I put 5 teaspoons in here. I put it in this little thing here to make sure I get out those lumps. You can see the little lumps there, which are not good in a biscuit or in a pone of bread. And then I do 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and then 2 teaspoons of salt. So that's 4 to 6 teaspoons of baking powder in your 4 cups of flour. It's 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And 2 teaspoons of salt. Now we're going to whisk all this together as dry ingredients. We're going to add about a cup of lard or shortening of whatever fat of your choice that you add. Butter, a lot of people like to add butter, but we always used lard because that's what we've used traditionally. I'm going to go ahead and use this same lard that I have in this can. Anywhere from a half a cup to a cup, depending on your flour. Going to mix that really good into this 4 cups of flour until that is about the size of peas in your flour. And then I've got 2 cups of milk here. You can also use water. And I've got a splash of vinegar. Let me put a splash of vinegar in that. You can use lemon juice. We have more vinegar on hand than we do lemons. Give that a few minutes and it'll chunk that milk right up. And it'll make it like buttermilk. Add this 2 cups in here, just like we did for the biscuits. And we're going to go ahead and mix this up. Now we're not going to pat this out or roll this out, so it's not going to be a big deal that this is a little bit loose, that this is a little bit wetter than it normally would be. So we've got it mixed up here to about the consistency of biscuit dough. can see, it looks a lot like the biscuit dough did. It's just like it. But instead of dividing these biscuits up, we're going to make what is called a pone of bread. And that's where you take a frying pan that's been heated up in the oven, just like you would for your biscuits. And you're just going to pour this biscuit mixture into your pan, your hot pan with the lard that's been melted in it. And you're just going to smooth it out like this. You can see this is a lot quicker than the biscuits. You're not individually rolling them out. You're just putting it in a pan as one big biscuit, if you will. And it's called a pone of bread. And you would do this back in the day if you were in a hurry. If you had to fix a meal fast, people were coming to eat, you'd been in the field or in the orchard all day, and you had to go ahead and get this bread made, and you didn't have time to roll it out. Most people would do this just for their family. And so we're just going to stick this right in the oven and bake it for 10 to 15 minutes on a 450-degree Fahrenheit oven. Now here's the biscuits. As you can see, they're individually portioned out. You just reach in there and get one if it was cool, or use a spatula if it wasn't. Put it on your plate. There it is. It's about the size of a cat head. A house cat or a barn cat, not a mountain lion or a bobcat. Cut it open. And fill that thing full of whatever you want it full of. Could be gravy, could be leftover meat. Put some butter in that thing. And that's good eating. I'll be having this for lunch today. Okay, our time is at the end. This is the pone bread. These are the biscuits, minus the one I had for lunch. This is the pone bread. It's all in one piece. Put butter on it just like you would the biscuits. This keeps the crust moist, the top of your pone bread and the top of your biscuits, putting a little butter on them. It adds flavor. It makes them more attractive. Now this would be served it would be wait until it cooled off, and then according to the size and the appetite of the diner, you would just break off the piece that you would want with your meal, or it could be cut in slices just like a pie and served that way. But this is a pone of bread in the Appalachian Mountains if you fixed your bread this way. And these are biscuits. Appalachian Cathead biscuits, about the size of a house cat. These are still steaming, so I won't be able to pick that up for you. I'll show you the inside, but it's crusty, dense. These are individual portions. This is the same dough mix put into one pan and made into a pone of bread. This one was probably made if you were in a hurry and had to hurry up and get a meal on the table. However, some people made it just because they liked this better. So either way, they're delicious and very good traditional Appalachian ways to make bread. Thank you for joining me today and let me share this with you. And like always, until next time.